Hanging papers. I bet you don't know much about this. What's hanging papers?
That means you're putting papers on a dog that it doesn't belong to.
It means you're a cheating, scamming
Right.
bastard. That's what you are.
Yeah.
If you're scamming, if you are hanging papers, you are a rotten individual.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Hey, come on up here. Look, you got a doggy with me. If you're hanging, so let's talk about what hanging papers are, how it's done, why it's done, and what it means for you. So actually, we're going to put you back down because you're going to make too much noise. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. There you go. We're in the car. There you go. Back down. All right. So what's going on is somebody is selling you a dog, and for whatever reason, they can't get the necessary paperwork on the dog, either because it's not an AKC dog, or, well, there'd be some other reasons as well. Another example would be that people's trying to breed other dogs into the Frenchie line or in the breed. And so they got to breed for instance, a pit bull to a Frenchie, and you can't get paperwork on that, so you cheat in what we call hanging the papers. So hanging the papers is done in a number of different ways. One is you're falsifying the record is what you're doing. So it may not just be with the AKC, it could be with any organization. But we'll just talk about the AKC and how this happens and how people get tripped on this. So what you do is you say, I bred to this stud dog. You've got the stud dog's information, and in fact you didn't. That'll be one way. So AKC knows no better about this. And as long as both the owner of the stud dog and the owner of the dame will sign off on this, there's got to be some occlusion going on. Or maybe you own both the dogs, so you can falsify. Somebody or two people, the cop right there, right, have got to falsify this. So then you get paperwork, and everything's fine. And you get the dog, the puppy, whatever. You breed the dog, and at some point down the road, this thing backfires, and AKC sends you a letter that says, your dog is no longer AKC registered. And even worse than that, if you have had puppies or used as a stud dog, all of the offspring of that dog also get their papers yanked as well. The person who sold you the dog, they've disappeared into the weeds. They're not going to do anything for you. How do I know that? Because they're cheating buggers anyway. So they're absolutely not going to say, oh, well, I'll give you money back, I'll make you whole. You have got really messed up. So why would the AKC down the road say, look, that dog's not an AKC dog? Because there's DNA involved. If you have a frequently used size, more than 3 times in a year, I think 5 times in a lifetime, or it's an imported dog, it has to have DNA on file. Likewise, on a female that has had many puppies, also has to have DNA on record. So then what happens is somebody gets a puppy that's heritage is back from these 2 dogs, or from the dog that's got the hung papers, and the DNA doesn't match right. So you can see that in the DNA. I could look at that DNA and I could tell you within a minute whether or not this puppy could have had this as a granddad or a great granddad. The DNA trips the whole thing up, and that's when somebody's gets their DNA paperwork revoked, and all of the dogs that have been progenited from it. So the problems here is that the person who's perpetrating this scam, basically, they're dishonest people, and dishonest people are not going to give you money back, and they will absolutely do terrible things to get you to buy a puppy from them. So that's right. So how do you avoid this? Well, of course, one is you need to be with a reputable breeder who has been doing this for some time. Somebody who's not reputable, who's got caught by the DNA, is probably going to get all kinds of revoking on their AKC status. So I'd say that. So now, there is a way that this could happen, I think. I don't know that I'm right about this. And remember, I'm not an expert in hanging papers because I've never done it. But I know a little bit about it because I don't want you or me or Tammy to end up with a dog that's got hung papers. But here's a way I think the scam might work, and you would never find out. You import a dog. I suspect that dogs that are imported from, for instance, from Russia or Ukraine or Hungary, or that the DNA on record, the AKC has no way of checking that up very well. And because of that, I think that this could be perpetrated, that scam could be perpetrated. And furthermore, I think that in some of these countries, they fly a lot closer to the sun. And so there's people within the organization who will give paperwork to people for some money. And I don't think it's going to happen at the AKC, but I think it's quite likely this would happen in some of these. I don't want to start pointing fingers at things I don't know anything about, but I suspect that's the way it can happen.
Well, it can happen over here too.
Yeah, well, if it happens over here, it's going to get caught, I think.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Right. It'll all get caught eventually, either way.
If you imported a dog with hung papers, I don't know that it would get caught. I don't know how they're going to check. That's my point. I don't know how they're going to check on it.
Yeah.
So that brings up. So there's.
They'll get caught, but I don't think you're going to get anything done about it.
Well, I think in all these cases, that if it's an AKC dog that's been registered and is being produced in the United States, eventually the DNA will trip this whole thing up.
Oh yeah.
And
then you've got puppies that you had and passed on, and
you got a huge.
It's a big mess.
But I think that somebody could have imported a dog and pretended it was a particular dog when it wasn't, and that may never get caught. I don't want to give people ideas.
No.
And look, people out there who know more about this, comment on this and let us know. I'd like to know whether or not there is a flaw in there, because that means that you've got to be careful.
Years and years ago, there was a woman that did that and got caught at it.
Well,
over here.
Okay, so that brings up another whole thing. That's this whole thing about these different things that are happening with big ropes. Where did the big rope come from? So, one obvious answer is Shar-Peis, right?
Yeah.
So that somebody introduced a Shar-Pei line, and they had to hang the papers to make this work. Somebody had to hang the papers. So, it makes you wonder a little bit about this. Again, there's lots of... Cody now has a big rope. So, he does his due diligence to get dog from, but, you've still got this little bit of unknown in this stuff. And so, it still goes back to, try to deal with people who... I'm
sure it was all registered under the correct deal on...
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, Cody's not going to do silly stuff.
It's not that it's...
But the point here is if if somebody's just got a big rope dog and they don't have any history, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be buying a dog from them. All the dogs that we've ever bought, and the ones that come from overseas that I'm most concerned about, is that we know these people and we've vetted them by finding out from other breeders. Right, exactly. In the United States. We don't be the first person to import a dog from a breeder in the
we've got reputable breeders that are over in the UK too, but it's hard to find. You want to make sure
we have to have a lot of experience.
Right.
Tammy's got a lot of experience in this. So you see a lot of dogs. You talk to a lot of people. You've got a huge network of breeders. You ask questions. You say, hey, Vlaslenko from Hungary, is he reputable? And if 5 people say, yeah, I bought a dog from him, he's a great guy, then the flags kind of disappear. But if somebody says, who is he? Don't know anything about him. Yeah.
But if I've ever had a red mark on somebody and somebody asks me, I'll be truthful and tell them. And, Of
course you would, right.
That's my duty.
That is, exactly. So that brings up, now I'm just going to end this whole thing about, why do we even do this, Tammy? Why we spend time and effort to give people information.
But
why do we do it?
It's because we care about them. We want to make sure that they don't make the same mistake that we did or that other people's done.
Right.
But it's just not in that certain big rope. It's in everything, on how everything ever started. The full fluffies,
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
that's
don't make it sound like you're picking on...
No. Well, that's interesting, though, on the full fluffies. I mean, I'm going to talk about Annette Woods for a moment. Annette Woods, unfortunately, is no longer with us. She's a great girl.
Oh, yeah.
A really good breeder.
Miss her so bad.
Yeah, she died about last year.
Yeah.
So, peace to Annette Woods and anybody who knows her. I think for most people would say that she's great.
My heart was broke.
Yes. So it's a sad day when we knew that she was in trouble. But the thing about this is she did produce a fluffy a long, long time ago, accidentally. She didn't go and breed to something else like a Chihuahua or something. She had a fluffy dog that showed up, and she thought
and
that
she
was a
wondered.
terrible thing.
You know what she said? What the hell?
What the? Well, she'd say it like this.
No, don't say it.
She'd say, "What the effing hell?" Because she'd swear quite a bit. You know, she's a great girl, but she was she had a little bit of coarseness around the edges.
She's
But I
so
loved her
funny.
for it. I loved her for it.
She's so funny.
But the point here was that she was not going to give that dog to somebody with rights because she knew that it was not right. Turns out that the fluffy dogs have been around in the past 100 years ago. They were actually there. So that wasn't a hung paper situation. But you're right.
Yeah, my ears are popping.
Oh, okay. But I get off track here now. Oh, yeah. So no, I'm not. I don't want this video to come across to suggest that people out there who have got fluffies like us are all a bunch of crooks, because they're not.
No.
But I think that the one thing I want to make clear is that we have no dog in this hunt. We're not doing this because we want to get the wool over your eyes. We're not doing this because we want to do. These videos are not about us trying to sell you a puppy or our products. Of course, people do come to us to buy dogs and products, and use our stud dogs, and that is obviously a benefit to us, but that is not the prime mover, is it?
Right, no.
We care about dogs more than the humans who have them.
And plus these new breeds that are coming up, they're doing so many generations of them that the reputable breeders are coming up with the real nice looking ones. So,
well, I think that's another thing. That's another whole thing. I think that's another
Yeah.
conversation we'll have after this one.
Yeah.
So I think that's enough on this one. So anyway,
Right.
hung papers, they're bad news. If you suspect somebody's hanging papers, you need to go investigate. Don't go buy a dog that might have hang papers. I think that there's unfortunately no absolute way that you can guarantee that isn't the case.
and if you know for a fact that this is going on, you need to turn them in.
That's right. You should talk to you should have your facts right.
Right.
Because you can upset
Definitely
somebody.
do that.
Yep. But I mean, basically, what I think what would happen with the AKC would go back to the people who've got the dogs involved and say we want DNA off those dogs, and then they verify whether it's a genuine dog or whether there was not an AKC dog. Okay, there we go. Thanks for watching. Bye, buddy.